Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart. Sometimes things do fall apart, but I hope this podcast helps you also understand that you don't have to put yourself back together alone. I'm really glad you are here today. I know life gets messy, complicated, and heavy sometimes, and when it does, it can feel like nobody's coming to help, like you're stuck trying to figure it out by yourself. But that's not true, and this podcast is just one small reminder that connection, conversation, and real information can make a difference. Today's episode is one that I am looking forward to because we are getting into a topic that doesn't get enough honest, real-world attention, and that's PTSD and Ibogaine therapy. You may have heard about psychedelics being used in mental health treatments. It's becoming a bigger conversation lately, which I do think is great. But Ibogaine is something a lot of people still don't know much about. It's not just another trendy psychedelic. It's a powerful, intense medicine that's showing serious promise for people living with PTSD, OCD, and addiction. It is not recreational. It is not a quick fix, and it's definitely not for everyone. But when used carefully and intentionally, it can be a major tool in real healing. Ibogaine therapy is mostly used in places like Mexico, Canada, and some other countries, especially since it's not legal everywhere, and there are real risks that come with it. This isn't something you just sign up for lightly. It's a process. It's about facing the stuff you've pushed down for years, sometimes decades, and finally getting to the root of it. It's gritty, it's uncomfortable, and it's serious work. But for a lot of people, it's been life-changing in ways that traditional therapy and medication haven't been able to touch. My guest today is Zahra Adloo. She's a mental health counselor, a trauma and addiction specialist, and she has personal experiences with psychedelics like Ibogaine and ayahuasca, both as a client and a clinician. Zahra's energy is incredible. She is knowledgeable, she's real, and she doesn't sugarcoat what it takes to heal. She gets it. She knows the stakes. She's walked the road herself, and she's helped other people walk it too. In this conversation, you're going to hear us talk about what PTSD and OCD really look like outside of the stereotypes. You'll hear us break down what Ibogaine is, how it works, and what the risks are, and also why integration and ongoing support are absolutely critical after the experience. We also get into some important points about finding safe and ethical places for treatment, because unfortunately, not every clinic or facilitator out there has people's best interests at heart. If you've ever felt stuck in old patterns you couldn't seem to break, or if traditional therapy has helped but hasn't quite gotten you all the way where you want to be, this is an episode you're going to want to hear. Thank you for being here and for showing up for yourself by tuning in. Let's get into it. Excellent. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am so excited to have you here. So excited to have our guest here today. We're going to be talking about PTSD and Ibogaine therapy, which is fascinating to me. So I'm really interested to get into this topic. But Zahra, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here and being willing to come be our expert and listen to our questions.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm already loving the energy on this call and this podcast. I'm feeling so excited to share and to engage with this community.
Good. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Very glad. I try to make it all good energy, good vibes and everything. I'm glad to hear that it's working at least a little bit. But let me tell y'all a little bit about Zahra. And of course, we have a question queue open. If you have a question while we are here live and it's related to PTSD or Ibogaine therapy or anything else that you feel like might fit into this topic tonight, feel free to enter it into the question while we are live here and we will make sure to address it. So that's an option for you. But while we are thinking about our different questions, I'll just tell you guys a little bit about our guest tonight. So Zahra assists clients in working through challenges and uncovering the core of who they are. She works with individuals who have endured a variety of life challenges, including trauma, addiction, anxiety, depression, and mood instability. Zahra also provides support to those struggling with body image issues, such as body dysmorphic disorder. In her practice, she integrates Eastern philosophy with Western philosophy. She incorporates elements of Reiki, energy healing, and trauma-informed yoga into her therapeutic approach. Her expertise in psychedelic integration, particularly in using Ibogaine as a tool for addressing addiction and trauma, enables her to support clients through their integration process, making sure they receive compassionate and informed care. Zahra received her training from Palo Alto University, focusing on clinical mental health counseling and marriage and family therapy. And outside of her practice, she remains committed to her own personal growth and development through challenging workouts, yoga, and hiking. Zahra also has a passion for creative writing, podcasting, and traveling abroad. And if you are interested, Tyrion, oh no, sorry, my cat just threw up on the thing behind me. Gross. Poor little guy. If y'all are interested in not connecting with a puking cat, and you're looking to connect with Zahra instead, here are a couple of links to Instagram and her website, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. Let me post those for y'all. And feel free to go and check her out. And again, as you always know, I like to say that engagement is what makes a difference. So if you go connect with her, make sure you're liking a couple of posts, leave a comment or two. All of that is what really helps with discoverability. So our topic for tonight is PTSD and Ibogaine therapy. But before we get into that topic, Zahra, I would love to know just a little bit about your own journey into mental health counseling and how you came to specialize in things like trauma and addiction and PTSD and OCD.
Well, so this was actually my second career. I got my first master's in management information systems. So I was working in a totally different industry, software development, management. And even within that role, I felt really, really connected to still being a therapist. And I was a very supportive manager. So, we had an agile environment and an open environment, and people would literally come to my desk and just talk to me about their problems that were totally unrelated to the project. And so I'm like, there's my calling. I feel so much more connected to that. And I want to go and learn how it is that I can help people through the right knowledge and tools that I can gain. As far as going into psychedelic therapy, I had a really amazing breakthrough during this time when I was seeking for a purpose and I was unhappy with my career. And I went on my first ayahuasca journey, which was my first psychedelic ever. And that journey in itself, it had me really dive deep for a good 3 years afterwards to figure out what it was that I experienced, because I didn't have an integration coach. I didn't have the support to help navigate, and give me the answers or make meaning of my experience. And then later on, when I went to school to become a therapist, I was in my graduate program. I was doing my internship, and someone recommended for me to watch the documentary titled Dosed. And and this is relevant to the work I started doing because I went into addiction treatment, and I had never been around anyone who was addicted to a substance a day in my life, but I went towards it because I wanted to understand and just kind of seek the discomfort and understand why, and be able to become closer to that population and go deeper into what traumas or what experiences led them to make the choices that they've had to make, which all of that is multidimensional. So, and I was watching this documentary that helped me realize how Ibogaine treatment helped someone with 17 plus years of heroin addiction find peace and go through a withdrawal process that was not harmful or really strenuous on her body and her mind, and find sobriety for years afterwards, to the point where now she advocates. And so during my treatment time and during my internship experience, I realized that everybody coming in had a lot of trauma, and a lot of them had those roots in their childhood. And so I went on with my life. I ended up graduating, and I still went into addiction treatment. And after working to earn my hours for licensure for California, I came to the realization that it took on average 7 years or 7 attempts for people to come into treatment before they actually gain total sobriety from substances. And, with fentanyl out there in the current age, we don't have that privilege to be able to sit around and let people die of overdoses, which
Right.
at this moment, according from 2022, 107 plus thousand people have died in overdose just in that year alone from opiates
Mm.
or opioid addictions. And so having that realization, seeing that the treatment model that we have is ineffective, I dug deeper and I remembered that documentary and I went and I did my own treatment for PTSD and OCD. And the breakthrough that I had was remarkable. Essentially, people who are addicted to something feel like they are stuck. And what it did is it relieved me of that suffering and that thought and that limiting belief. And not only did it do that, but it pushed me and empowered me to find, and discover my strengths and parts of myself that were dormant that I didn't understand. And I'm witnessing that in people who were addicted to substances, and seeing the change and the contrast in them is what helped me really pick this path and just go full force with it.
Were you thinking whenever you first started, were you really wanting to kind of focus on the marriage and family aspect or something like that, and this caught you by surprise? Or was it something that maybe you knew whenever you were like, I'm going to go into this second career, that was going to be your focus eventually?
Oh, yeah. I knew that I was going to focus on psychedelics. I didn't know to what capacity, and that
Yeah.
that unfolded with time. And I specifically did not think that I would ever go towards Ibogaine. If anything, I was really resistant and afraid because there's such a stigma out there that it's harmful, or that,
Mm.
it can cause distress and maybe fatalities. And so I was always, shying away from it, but it kept coming up and showing itself in my life. And so I figured, I need to go on and figure out what this is. And for anything, would make me a better clinician, because now I'm finding an actual solution that's not outdated, that has actually existed for centuries now. But we are now, in the past 50 years, just exploring its efficacy for treatment of opioid addiction and traumatic brain injury and neurodegenerative diseases, just to name a few. But
Mhm.
yeah, it really it caught me off surprise. I'm someone that doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and I'm really sensitive to those things.
Mhm.
So for me to go on a quest to work with the strongest psychedelic in the world is something that it just baffles me. I had no idea that this is the line that I would,
Yeah.
get in touch with.
Yeah. Kind of just out of left field a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So this being your second career now, what's your favorite thing about working in the mental health field, and what have you found to be the biggest challenges?
My favorite thing about working in mental health is seeing the transformations that people go through,
Mm.
specifically when it comes to ibogaine treatment, because it's such a catalyst to seeing someone grow. It's a tool. It's definitely not everything. I think it definitely it's definitely like a symbiotic relationship that they both need to have. They need to be interconnected. So my biggest, like, the best part of it is just seeing the contrast and what someone was like and what they became, and how they discovered their authenticity and their strengths. And then the biggest challenge with this is basically the funding,
Mm.
the financial piece for people who are really underprivileged. Ibogaine treatment is super expensive, and mental health in general. Like, to get really good mental health treatment, you need to have insurance, and you need to be able to have access to certain resources that not everyone has access to. And so that part is really, really disheartening,
Hmm.
to know that the population that needs it the most is the one that is unable to get the help that they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comes up so often in these conversations.
Mhm.
It's like, what do you not like about mental health, or what do you not like about what you do? And it's always insurance and money. That's what it comes down to,
Yeah,
which
for
is just
sure. I mean,
really, really tough.
luckily, absolutely. I mean, like, and luckily, I work with this clinic in Mexico who does Ibogaine treatments that it's, and they're named New Path Ibogaine. They actually have a scholarship fund that people donate to that they use for the underprivileged who really, really need treatment. Because again, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that this clinic has that, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to work with them.
Yeah, yeah. That's really neat. I'll have to look up that I'll have to look up that clinic. Oh, here's a link for it. Okay, I've got a link. So if anybody's interested in checking that out, I'll post a link for y'all in the chat
Cool.
to click through onto that. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
Oh my God, yes. So for a while, I was obsessed with watching them because as a therapist, we want to get into their psyche, we want to understand why. And I mean, this might be cliche, but the Jeffrey Dahmer
Mm,
episodes on Netflix really, really interesting to me, because it really like showcases how important it is to have early intervention with with children who come from traumatic backgrounds or who show signs of um, psychopathy, so, or antisocial personality disorder. So it was really fascinating. And part of it, you know, at the end of the episode, I know that there was a chance where they could have examined his brain to be able to see why he was the way that he was. And I wish that his father allowed it, because it just really digs deeper into understanding these individuals and not blaming them for their deficits, or, you know, seeing them as criminals because they are mentally ill.
hmm
And so there is just that empathy that I have for individuals like that who just can't help how they are,
Yeah.
and their environment didn't shape them to be any better. They didn't have the early intervention or the help to be able to see life differently or to understand themselves better,
hmm
to be able to fit into community without harming others. So that, yeah, that would be the one that was the most, you know, for me, the most thrilling to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to see how many times it comes down to something, you know, a head trauma in childhood or some
Yeah,
other
yeah,
childhood trauma. Like a lot of the times you can say, you know, that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make any of their actions okay,
yeah,
but you can point to something and say, look what happened to them. And it would be really
right,
nice to be able to figure out how they go from this happened to you. Okay, the same thing happened to another kid, and one of you grew up to be a murderer and one of you did not. So let's try to figure that out and see what the other factors were that go
exactly,
into it. It's really interesting. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So getting a little bit onto the topic tonight, talking about PTSD and OCD. Those are two things that have a lot of big feelings whenever some people hear them. A lot of the time they're very misunderstood, or they conjure specific images. So what are some common misconceptions about PTSD and OCD, and how do you address those?
So a lot of people have this misconception that PTSD is only associated with veterans and
Mm-hmm.
soldiers, but in reality, anyone could be diagnosed with PTSD who's experienced even this, what would be subjectively the most um, normal experience to have, or the least traumatic experience to
Mm-hmm.
have. So when one person sees and experiences, and the outcome of that and the way that it affects them is totally different to how somebody else does. I had a client who had a history of drug abuse and PTSD, all because she witnessed, and it's not all because, but I just want to
Sure.
put things in perspective. She witnessed someone that she rode on the school bus with die
Mm.
in an accident, you know, right in front of her. So she saw, and she didn't even see his body. She saw his bicycle and the blood on it, and that traumatized her for
Wow.
years afterwards. But then somebody else might see that and say, well, that's not a big deal, but it's subjective, and we
Mm-hmm.
are nobody to judge those experiences and how they affect their brains. Um, Another thing would be with OCD. A lot of people think it has to do with being organized or needing to perform certain rituals, but in reality, OCD is when someone has disruptive, repetitive thoughts, and that they need to carry out these compulsions to just soothe themselves for the moment. And so one of the forms of OCD that exists now is body dysmorphic disorder, which is something that I was diagnosed with and I helped people overcome. But it's essentially a branch of OCD that goes unrecognized. We have mirror rituals and we are obsessive over certain perceived flaws, but it like hinders, and it basically like inhibits you from doing more with your life that you want to, because it's constantly on your mind and you constantly need to perform these rituals. And so it's not just about being organized or clean. It's a lot harder than that. And I really feel for people who suffer from it, because I understand. And my Ibogaine treatment helped me relieve of my suffering and my repetitive thought patterns. It's completely dissipated. But yeah, that's one of the hopeful parts of getting a treatment, but also one of the misconceptions of OCD, for sure.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you can't see any of that from the outside looking at a person. Like, you wouldn't know that about someone that they've gone through anything like that.
Exactly. Like, I think mental health is so difficult because our issues with mental health and disorders, because at least like when you have a broken arm, you can showcase that, look, I have a cast or I have a bruise, right? But with like internal mental suffering, how do you show that to someone? How do you ask for help? How do you get, like, we see someone in a wheelchair and we automatically want to help them out in whatever capacity we can. But when we see someone with mental health disorders, we don't really know what they are, or like, unless they're reactive or like they showcase themselves in a certain way, but it's really hard. It's like you're suffering silently. And then there's the shame that comes with it too. Like, especially with someone who has body dysmorphia, there is that shame in even talking about it, because we don't want to come off as vain, but the thoughts still exist, and those patterns still continue. But yeah, there's just a lot of stigma and shame, and it's really, really hard when you're dealing with mental health issues to be able to see it.
Yeah, most definitely. The other thing that's really wild to me is that if you have something like this happen in childhood, you might grow up with a certain thinking pattern or with a certain reaction to something, and you might think that everyone has that. Like, if you don't know that it's any different for anyone else, and you never seek out therapy or anything like that, you might think that that's the way that everyone thinks. And same goes with other things like anxiety and depression, even to an extent. If it's something that you're just so used to that it's normal in your life, it's very easy to think this is a normal pattern of thinking, when in reality you could go to therapy, or you could have a conversation with someone that completely changes your perspective, and you're like, oh, I don't have to live this way. I could actually seek treatment. And that's where that stigma you were talking about comes in a little bit, because it's definitely one of those things that it used to be, oh, I would never go to therapy. I think it's gotten so much better now. I think a lot more people are willing to go to therapy, and it's not this big, like, oh, I have therapy today is not a big deal to say. Like, you can just say, I have therapy today, and it's not that big of a deal. It used to be a much bigger deal, but yeah, most definitely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you mean everybody doesn't eat peanut butter and mayo sandwiches? If you grew up with peanut butter mayo sandwiches, then
I put ketchup on my eggs, and people think that's weird.
There you go.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What is normal?
Yeah. That's a great comment. Great addition. Thank you for that, for sure. Because it doesn't have to be a thought, an internal thought. It could be a behavior. Like, you could have something. Some piece of ritual in your daily life that you think is totally normal, and everyone else is like, what?
Right. We see that a lot with cultural differences, right? Like, when what's disrespectful in one culture is a reward or a compliment in another. And I'll name an example of that in my own. I grew up, Iranian American, Persian, and thumbs up is a middle finger in our country.
Oh, wow.
So, but here a thumbs up is good. So it's like, we see that what's normal in one aspect of the world or in one area of the world is totally not that. So yeah, it's really good to just be informed
Yeah, absolutely.
and verbalize.
Right.
Yeah, verbalize what it is that you're going through.
Yeah. And then taking that maybe a little bit further, also make sure you're extending grace to other people because they might not know. They might not know that that's not acceptable in whatever situation you're in, and just you don't know how they grew up, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what's going on in their head. So just give everybody a little bit of that grace when possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For those who might be unfamiliar with Ibogaine, can you explain what that is and how it works a little bit?
So ibogaine is an alkaloid of a plant called iboga. It derives from a root bark. It originated in Gabon, Africa, and so this plant, iboga, has 12 different alkaloids. Ibogaine is one of them that's been used for therapeutic use, therapeutic treatments. And so it really, what it does is the ibogaine releases in the person's body and it becomes noribogaine and it ends up staying in their body for a month after their treatment. So what that does compared to other psychedelics is it gives people this larger critical period. And what I mean by that is like a critical period is a time of like exponential growth. So we notice that in infants to toddlers when they're going through their growth process. And then we also witness that in humans when they become teenagers. So we also get that when we get our ibogaine treatment. There's a period of mental, physical, and emotional growth that you experience that is like very rapid, just as you would as a teenager and as a toddler going into, or as an infant going into toddlerhood. And so that's a little bit about ibogaine and what it does for our mental health and our well-being, and how it affects the brain. It basically also helps you rewire old maladaptive patterns into more functional patterns that help you live a more expansive life. So patterns such as like I said, the obsessive compulsions and the behaviors that follow that all gets disrupted and you witness neuroplasticity because your neurons are firing together differently. And your mind expands in that sense when you want to pick up new habits, hobbies, new thought patterns. And that's what ibogaine does for people who seek treatment and receive it.
Do you have to really do that intentionally? Like it's not something that just happens naturally, is it? Where it's like, I want to change all these things, and they're just going to naturally change. Do you really have to be like, I want to focus on this one specific thing? I want to change my pattern of thinking around this. And how does that look?
So you definitely need to set an intention. And you have to understand that what ibogaine does is it actually gets you to the root cause of your problem. So understanding the root and then having an intention, having a lifestyle already in place. And this is what I do with my clients when I prepare them. I ask them to look at hobbies that they want to work on or want to explore. Look at their relationships in their lives because that is really important in fostering growth. And look in their environment, what they do for work, and their connection with nature and their health in general. All of these things are really important to focus on. And then once they set their intentions and they have an idea of what that is, once they go through their journey and they have this like exponential growth and this feeling of wanting to like go on and live their purpose and they have this like drive and motivation, then they already have everything like planned out that they can integrate into their lives. So to say that ibogaine is like the solution would be false. It is definitely a tool. And if you utilize the right resources and plan effectively and do the integration work, it helps you shape your lifestyle to one that fits you and allows you to be healthy, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. It sounds like it's very, very effective. Is it controversial, or are there legality issues or ethical issues?
Oh yeah. So it's a Schedule 1 substance in the US, and
Mm.
what that means is that it's highly addictive, and and it can't be used for research. Which interesting is that it's not only non-addictive, but it actually helps people feel, get better. And so, and there's a whole story on that, on it's being Scheduled 1, but right now it's legal in Canada and Mexico and Netherlands, Brazil, New Zealand, Portugal. So there are a ton of places that have accepted it and have been doing and using this treatment modality for years. But in the US, it's not legal, which is sad. However, with the lawsuits from Purdue Pharma for the opioid crisis, the state of Kentucky for a period of time wanted to use that lawsuit money to open up treatment centers for those who are suffering from opioid addiction. That was actually declined, and now that the state of Washington is looking into finding funding for research so that they can start to research Ibogaine and get the approvals for that. So, what didn't work in one state stemmed curiosity in another, and but it's still illegal in the U.S. As far as the ethics go, I will have to say, ethically speaking, I have to always preface this with transparency. It is not, like I said, it's not a solution. It's a tool. It's a very good tool. It's a huge catalyst. You can go towards therapy and be in therapy for years before you come across the insights that Ibogaine can give you in just one session. Also, ethically speaking, it's really, really important that you connect with your facilitator, the person who's giving you the medicine. You want to understand what kind of inner work that they've done. You want to know why they came to using Ibogaine treatment for themselves and why they wanted to become a healer. Because what happens is a lot of shamans that are out there are actually narcissistic. And what they do is that they cause moral injury and they re-traumatize the people that come to them. And so you want to make sure you have a connection. So ethically speaking, I always want to say, whether it's with your therapist or with someone who's giving you a plant medicine, make sure you understand the work that they've done, and you really feel and listen to what your gut says about wanting to receive treatment from them, because this is an unregulated market, and with any regulated market, there's always going to be a dark side. And I almost came across that myself. I almost went to a treatment center that was horrific and has the worst review. I mean, online, their presence is amazing, and they have hundreds and thousands of reviews on YouTube and stuff. So they look really appealing online. But if you are a part of the community and you know that they are super dangerous,
Oh,
that
wow.
they actually can cause more harm to people than not. And so, I highly recommend for people to reach out to me if they need to for a list of resources that are safe and vetted out, or really just listen to their gut and connect with the client, with the therapist or the facilitator, and see if it feels good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy to fake a good presence online these days. It's easy to fake that. It's easy to fake the
Absolutely.
reviews or
Oh my
buy
God,
the
it's
reviews
scary.
or
It's so scary, especially because I'm a millennial and I look at that a lot. I mean, like, that is where my mind goes. I'm like, I need to look at reviews,
yeah.
and I'll go to their social media pages, but those have been the ones that have been the most misleading. Not all, I can't justify and generalize, but yeah, it's scary. You really have to do your homework. And
Yeah.
luckily, I had people guide me in the right direction to get me out of that situation.
Yeah. And it's not like a doctor. You can't look them up on health grades and see what people are really saying. There's nothing
No,
controlled like
and
that.
I
So,
mean, and it's exactly, and it's in another country. So
yeah.
what can you really do legally,
Yep.
So it's just, yeah, it's tough.
And Bitemark says it's worth noting that federally cannabis is also Schedule 1. Yeah, it's
Mm,
those scheduling of those different drugs doesn't always make sense, and a lot of the time it's been politically motivated in the past. So, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's something that you need to be aware of if this is something that you're interested in. And yeah, you need to be connected in with that community and make sure that you understand where you're going, what you're getting, and who you're getting it from as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned, kind of traditional therapy, and people could go for years and years. How does Ibogaine compare to other treatments for things like PTSD or OCD, like traditional therapy or medication, those sorts of things? Is this a first stop? Is it a middle stop? Is it a last stop? Where does it fall in there?
Unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's their last resort because they've already exhausted everything else, and they just don't know what else to do. I want to come up and say that I hope that this becomes your first resort. Compared to other therapies that are out there, what Ibogaine does is it goes to the root cause of the problem, whereas with other traditional therapies, they only manage the symptoms. So when you have anxiety, oh, here are some coping tools for you to use. When you're having depressive thoughts, let's challenge those and reframe those thoughts. So you're really just managing. But with this, you go in, you get the root cause, and then you turn your perspective and your narrative change. And so that you're no longer really affected by those same old thinking patterns that once had you not trust the unknown, and have anxiety, or be so hyper vigilant of your surroundings because your amygdala is increased in size from the trauma you've been through. So this is definitely a really, really good tool. And in conjunction with therapy is just gold. Like I said, I don't think that they can exist without the other. But yeah, this is how it's different.
Yeah, definitely a you should be doing both kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
Are there any side effects or risks associated with Ibogaine therapy?
Yeah, so there are cardiovascular risks, so you definitely need to get an EKG each time. Your liver enzymes also have to be up to par, so you have to get a liver panel exam. And then if you've experienced psychosis, it's definitely not for you. So those are like the contraindications. And the risk really is not just physical. But again, and I want to mention this a million times because it's so important, you are also putting yourself in psychological risk when you don't know who it is that you're working with. So I always recommend, please get yourself a therapist that's trained in psychedelic therapy, and also vet out who is giving you the medication or the medicine, because again, that's the risk that you're taking by going to a different country and working with people that you've never worked with. So if you want to if you want to go to a clinic, ask them if you feel comfortable, if they can sit with you for a few sessions before you say yes, and talk to them via Zoom or whatever means it is. Ask all the questions that you need to. But definitely for Ibogaine treatment, get those tests done. And if a clinic tells you that they don't do it, then run.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a risk of reinforcing a negative pattern with Ibogaine therapy?
There is if you don't do the work. Like, you definitely need to first be aware of the negative patterns that you have and set the intention to not perform those or not do those things. But yeah, if you don't do any of the work, and if you don't have anything in place to stop those patterns and to reframe and to act differently and to behave differently, then you're going to eventually resort back to what may have worked for you in the past. So, for instance, if someone is addicted to like going to psychics, and that's their way of relieving their stress, if they don't find peace and they don't understand how to cope with the distress that comes in, they're going to end up going back to that same pattern of contacting someone to give them temporary relief. So yeah, you definitely can go backwards if you don't do the work. And that's why it's so important before any psychedelic journey to work with someone who can give you tools that work, and actually practice them for a little bit. And then once you've had your journey, you've gotten to the root cause, and you have this motivation to practice, literally practice every single day. Put it on your calendar. I'm going to go for a walk when I'm feeling anxious, or if this is happening, then I'm going to do this to combat that thought. Or if I'm having a limiting belief, I'm going to continue to push through, So yeah, you definitely have to do the work. Otherwise, you will go back to what you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about just the process of Ibogaine therapy. What does that typically look like all the way from preparation to integration?
So preparation is when you have a session with, whether it's the clinic that you're going to or an integration coach, and that person is really there to get your biopsychosocial history, to help you feel safe and understand what safety means for you, to give you coping skills and hobbies to look forward to have you like really think about what it is that you want to change in your life and what areas of your life you'd like to grow in. And then you get a background of what to expect, or like a whole process of what to expect when you're in treatment. So, whether it's in the beginning phase or the middle phase or the end, each part is basically like broken down to you, because it is a 72-hour journey. So within each hour, you're experiencing different outcomes. So in the beginning, you'll have the purging when you're vomiting a lot, you're nauseous, you're dizzy. There are moments at the peak experience, which is at 12 hours, where your body is experiencing ataxia, which is when your muscles feel weak and you need help going to the bathroom. And then after that, you go into having rapid thoughts, like suppressed thoughts come up one after the other. And so that's a process. One of the processes is also when, or experiences within the process, is the projection of your life. Like you're watching your life in front of your eyes as if there's a movie. And so there's that. And then towards the end, when you start to come down, you experience a little of anxiety, but it's really like a time to go within. You don't want to talk to anyone. You start to, these repressed memories come up, but then you actually start to cry a lot. So you'll go in between laughter and crying very rapidly. And so those are called the gray days. And then at the end of the 72 hours, you no longer see frequencies. So what I mean by that, like within your peripheral, you'll see like little wavelengths. Once that's out and like out of your sight, that's when like the compound is completely transferred into Ibogaine, and now that's what's working in your body for the next month. So that is the process. And then after your whole treatment, you have an integration session with someone who prepared you and is now going to walk you through what you need to do to live a lifestyle that is effective for you and that helps you feel happy and healthy. So that's really like the whole step and the process. And if you want to continue to do treatment and break down what you've experienced with your integration coach, that's always available for as long as you want it to be. But usually, like, we provide all that outline in the prep work, and then now it's like, all right, let's take action. But also be mindful that after each session, people come in so empowered and strong and willing to do everything, and everything kind of feels possible. And so I always want to warn people to take a pause and a break on any major life changes that they want to make, because you want to change everything right away. And sometimes those changes, are great, but sometimes you really need to think things through and do them at the right time and not so impulsively. So, whether it's letting go of someone or changing your job, you don't want to just leave somewhere if you don't have any financial backing. So these are some examples of major changes. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you talk about it in such a positive light when all of that sounds so awful.
I know.
Like the end results must be phenomenal for you to be willing to not only go through that yourself, but then encourage other people to go through it as well. Did you just like, was it awful when you were going through it yourself?
Oh, I think ayahuasca was awful for me. Ibogaine was very grounding, and I was completely, for my personality, I like to know that I'm oriented somewhere, that I'm grounded. And with Ibogaine, I was completely aware of my surroundings. I could have a conversation with someone. I just knew I could move around.
Yeah.
The discomfort came from all the repressed thoughts coming up back to back. That for me was the most uncomfortable. Even the purging was a relief. Like, they say that you store 90% like no, 90% serotonin gets produced in the gut. And so they also say that like you hold a lot of emotions and experiences on a cellular level in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that felt like a release, like I was letting go and shedding things that I didn't need to feel anymore. So yeah, as much as it sounds awful, you're afterwards, like the feeling that you get
Mm-hmm.
is ineffable. Like I can't even describe how amazing. Your face even changes. I mean, they take before and after pictures and you're glowing. Like the fact, even with the fact that you haven't slept in 3 days, you don't feel tired at all. You're not hungry or thirsty. You just feel like a newborn baby wanting to discover life in a new way. And it's exciting. And you're like, I gotta go. I'm like, I gotta handle this. I gotta do this. And that feeling is really has been really
Mm-hmm.
exciting for me. Now, for most people, it has been that, but maybe for some, it might be nerve-wracking to
Yeah.
have so much drive all at once, to want to do so much. But overall, I can say it's always been a positive experience from what I've witnessed and what I went through myself.
Yeah. Have you just done it one time?
No, I did it
Did it
twice.
twice. And then the ayahuasca before that. Have you done other psychedelics as well?
Yeah, so I'm a I have a
Mm-hmm.
certification to facilitate in the state of Oregon. And then I've done San Pedro, ayahuasca, and I'm going to be doing DMT soon.
Yeah.
So I've done LSD as well. All of them are amazing, but I, I've always done them therapeutically. I think there have been maybe one or two times where I've like taken mushrooms at a music festival, which
Mm-hmm.
was also amazing. But I am very intentional with it.
Yeah.
And so when I feel like I need another session, I am like, okay. But with Ibogaine, you normally don't need more than one session. My
Mm-hmm.
exception was that I was actually getting trained with two facilitators, and that was part of their process that
Part of
I
the
get
training.
treatment. Yeah, part of the training that I get treatment through how they do it, and learn how they did it. And with both experiences, it was great.
Yeah.
So I don't like regret it or anything like that. I probably want to do one every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Was there anything
but yeah.
significantly different that they were doing with that one than the other time you'd done it?
Yeah, so the first place I went to, and I like won't mention this, I felt physically safe, but this the person who was giving me the medicine was definitely like projecting a lot of her own stuff
Oh,
onto me.
yeah.
That's why I say it's really important that you go to someone who actually has like a mental health background or coaching or has done like work through their own experiences, and is trauma informed. So like she made comments to me that were really like, with if I didn't have my background, I would have taken them personal, especially
Mm-hmm.
in such a vulnerable state that I was in. However, with the treatment that she gave me, I did feel safe and comfortable. Like I was like, okay, well, I at least feel that.
Yeah.
The second treatment that I had was a lot more nurturing. I mean, I've had one of the nurses checking on me all the time. She came and did Reiki on me. She brought like aromatherapy. She did aromatherapy with me. I had the other like facilitator like really like mother me and like tuck me in bed, and so that the nurturing part and the fact that someone was always there and on top of
Yeah.
me was what really gave me that safe feeling of okay, I can let go, and I can just process what I need to and get as much as I can out of this. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're not in that type of setting, it's really difficult. So one was luxurious and had someone, kind of give me like their project their stuff onto me. The other one was not so luxurious, but gave me such warmth and depth and nurturing. And I'm grateful for both those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was the difference between the two.
Yeah, and it just gives you, especially if that was part of your training, a different exposure to, oh, you're now
Mm-hmm.
you've gone through it
Yeah,
one way and you know that there's another way, and it's like you can
right.
almost take that and make it part of what you want to offer as well, like kind of pick what you want from each thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Hmm.
And it sounds like it's
Yeah, for sure.
pretty quick, but how long does it take after a session to start to see results, and are they permanent?
So most people see results immediately, and some people also, it's like an unfolding process. So it actually reveals with time that has passed. Are the results permanent? It all depends on the work that you want to do. I don't think anything is permanent unless you put in the effort. So yeah, I mean, you can come do a treatment and you'll have no cravings from the drugs and alcohols you were addicted to, or the behavioral patterns that you don't serve you. But if you don't continue to do the inner work, if you don't go to, like, let's say AA meetings, or you don't see your therapist consistently, and don't have lifestyle changes that you are implementing in your life on a day-to-day, no, nothing's permanent, and you'll go back to where you were.
It's the is it AA that's the it works if you work it? Is that the one?
Right.
Yeah. So you still have to do work. It's not a magic pill. I mean, if there was a magic pill, it would cost so much money.
Oh yeah.
But it would be being marketed 100%. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of different psychedelics, and everyone probably knows what's about to come out of my mouth because I ask this every time we have any sort of psychedelic conversation. Have you watched Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, the documentary series?
I have, but I can't tell you that I remember much from it. No.
I watched it a long time ago.
He did a documentary, right?
Yeah, it was a series on Hulu, and it was several different, like each one focused on a different kind of psychedelic. I don't know that I finished it, but I watched several episodes of it, and it's just all of it's fascinating, and he goes into the chemistry and everything. So I don't know why I can't help but to bring that one up every time. And I do. I think that docuseries is really fascinating. It was really good.
Yeah.
And it just goes with the different, and it's the same guy doing all these things and looking into how it works and why it works and all this different stuff. So it's just really cool. It's fascinating for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Specific to trauma, how does Ibogaine help folks process and heal?
So it like brings up the repressed memories and the thoughts. A lot of times when people experience trauma, especially in their childhood, because your brain is not totally developed, it gets stuck, and it gets stuck in the back of your brain. Like your brain is so wise, it wants to protect you from, harm. So it actually becomes like lost in your memories and might just show up in your body instead, but you won't understand why. And so what it does is it actually accesses all of that and it brings it to the surface. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't even know I could do that. So what does that mean? And then you dig deeper. So one of the things that I can say this helps you do is it is a catalyst to helping you see your repressed traumas a lot quicker and addressing them a lot faster than you would with, EMDR or like traditional trauma therapy modalities that exist right now. I mean, to access your subconscious thoughts it's actually really difficult, but Ibogaine allows you to get there in an altered state in a safe way, and it makes you feel more resilient to be able to address those traumatic memories with grace and this willingness to want to grow through it instead of being a victim of it. Yeah.
It sounds like you have to have a lot of self-compassion to do this and really work through it. Is that something that comes up very often?
Absolutely. I mean, so many people who've been through traumas or have had mental illnesses are stuck in this shame cycle, and they have guilt, they have shame. And I always say, even with my clients who suffered from years of addiction, like I always say, you need to know that this is a part of you that was trying to protect you at some point. Like this is what it did to help you. Now, it couldn't differentiate whether it was good or bad. Now it doesn't work. And now it's maladaptive and it's caused you harm. But all it was doing before was trying to protect you. So if anything, I would thank that part and be compassionate and loving towards that part and just say, you know what, this does not serve me anymore. Thank you. Now I'm going to focus on things that do. So I always say, like, let's be compassionate towards all the parts of us that exist, and they're always going to exist, right? And like even your shadow parts, those are parts that you have to love, because that's what it means to embrace, and what it defines what self-love is. You can't love yourself if you don't embrace all of the parts of you. If you're moving in with judgment, you're never going to find peace. So always come in with compassion, and recognize that your body and your mind is just trying to do its best. Now it's up to you. You have the executive functioning to be able to um, make different choices for yourself. And what a blessing it is to be able to have choices. So, but yeah, that's how I move forward. Always with compassion, no judgment. Even, I've had clients that sat across me and told me that they killed certain people, and they've never been convicted, but I always like saw, I just, for whatever reason, people would ask me like, are you scared? Did you? And I'm like, no, because I see like their soul. I see that inner child. And so why would I understand why they did the things that they did. I don't justify, but I understand. And so that in itself is something that I hope that most people try to embrace, try to understand, and move with compassion, move in with curiosity before you judge others of their experiences.
Oh, I like that. Move in with curiosity before you judge others.
Yeah,
That's a good phrase right there. Most definitely.
absolutely.
At the very beginning, we talked about you have all this interest in like trauma-informed yoga and Reiki and energy healing. How do those modalities complement Ibogaine therapy, if they do at all, I suppose?
Yeah. So with Reiki, what I love about that is that, it addresses, or somatic work in general, like it helps you remove like emotional blockages. And then the yoga allows you to connect your mind to your body. So you become more aware of your body and your physical sensations, and the wisdom that your body has to guide you towards making decisions for yourself, or taking action upon certain things that you need to. So I really, really love that. Like both of them, like Reiki allows for a cathartic experience. So it allows you to like cry it out, and like let go of what no longer needs to be held within, so that it doesn't become a disease, right? And then the yoga, just connecting to self, connecting to the body, and embracing the wisdom within. Not just mind, because you don't want to conceptualize and intellectualize everything. You have to be able to
Mhm.
integrate both mind and body, because there's wisdom in both. We have a whole enteric nervous system. So a nervous system is our gut, and nobody talks about that. We talk about the central nervous system, but like they both exist. And for me, I've used yoga to connect more to my intuition, to my body, to that gut feeling. And so there are a lot of things and decisions in my life that I need to make, but I don't know how to, I sometimes can't tap into logic all the time, but I listen to my body now, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right, or this does, and I'm going to move forward. And almost 100% of the time, it's always worked in my favor. And that's like what's so magical about having that connection with mind and body, is that like you don't it eliminates the fear, because you're like, I'm wise. I can tune into this wisdom. So yoga gets you embraced in that, and Reiki allows for the emotional blockages to be removed. Yeah.
Can you just do like any yoga, or is it a specific type of yoga? That's so interesting to me,
You know,
because I definitely know that moving your body in some ways can release different emotions and everything. Sometimes when you're not expecting it. So,
yeah, yeah.
it's interesting to me. I'm just wondering if there's a specific yoga practice that you should be looking for if you're interested in something like that.
So one that is really good for releasing emotions and meditating, and it's also it's like a part of this, what they call medical meditation, is called Kundalini Yoga, as taught by Yogi Bhajan. And that embraces meditation, movement, and everybody can do it. Breath work, the asanas, so chanting. So it embraces so much. And I've had a few cathartic experiences through that, because sometimes the movements are really uncomfortable and repetitive. So it really pushes you to like let go of the frustration or the anxious feelings that come up, and it moves that energy outwards into tears or like a scream. So I haven't found a lot of those type of clinic or yoga studios available that teach that type, but that has been really, really impactful. And then another one I would say would be yin yoga. Yin yoga gets you really calm into your body. Your postures are held longer. And so, you know, you get to really not only like pay attention to the muscles and the body involved, but then your thoughts. So when you're doing another type of yoga like Ashtanga or Vinyasa or Hatha, you're moving, if there's like a flow to it, and you're focused on keeping a pose or a balanced movement to keep the pose, you're really focused on the muscles and the concentration that you need. But with yin yoga, you're really in a relaxed state. You might feel a stretch here and there, but then your mind is a little bit active. And so like things just come up and you're able to realize them because the poses are held for such a long period of time. And so I would say with that, there's a good release a lot of times from what I've noticed and witnessed in myself and others. But yeah, that's a really good question. There are so many different types of yoga that exist. I've even seen like doggy or puppy yoga, and we know like about goat yoga, all that, you know. But I specifically got trained in Kundalini and Hatha yoga, and but I like all of them. I think they all teach us something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been I've had a couple of experiences where I got a great massage, specifically when I was pregnant. I got a great massage that just brought up like a bunch of emotions, and I'm sure part of that was hormonal, but also just generally, like sometimes it's that physical release that you just need. And then there were a couple times when I was having some issues with my back where I went to the chiropractor and it helped release some things that I didn't know were at all stored anywhere in my body. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to cry for a minute, okay?
Yeah. Well, no, and that's what the book The Body Keeps the Score talks about.
Yes.
Like we hold so much in our bodies, and sometimes we don't even know, like I said, and especially if you've experienced those like traumas in your younger ages before your brain is fully developed, like it does get stored there. So sometimes, you know, you'll have like certain bodily movements and or like emotions release and you have no idea. And so that's what I really love about massage therapy. That's a really good um treatment modality too. I think there's such wisdom in what the body holds, and having the right person bring that out of you is really like it's such a nice release on top of like the physical sensations of it. Yeah.
And I know Bite Mark is here, and I'm sure that she was going to ask this question, so I'll go ahead and ask it now. What is your favorite poem?
There's one, I think it's written by either Hafiz or Rumi, but it's like, I can't verbatim, I can't remember it, but it's like you and I are our souls were friends for like a really long time. It's something along those lines. And I really, really like that because it resonates. Could I look it up and see if I can find it?
Yeah, I'm actually Googling it right now to see if I can find it also. Google's AI cracks me up.
My heart. It's Your Heart and My Heart are very, very old friends. And it's written by Hafiz. And I love Hafiz in this, not just because of I love that line, but I'm actually from the city. My family's from the city where he lived and he grew up and passed away. So it like just it hits differently for me.
Yeah.
And I experienced that with so many people in my life, you know, that I have these great bonds with. It always feels like, wow, I feel like I've known them forever and I've just met them, right? And that feeling is what this poem or this line reminds me of. And so, yeah, it just, I love it.
She said, thank you for asking my question. Yes. I knew you were going to get there.
Very good question.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like that one. We always get different answers, and sometimes it's like, oh, I've got a song that I love, or there's a whole book of poetry
Yeah.
that I love, or here's a specific one, and it's just always interesting to hear what different people enjoy. What is
Thank
your
you.
favorite life hack?
Okay, so this is called the Pomodoro technique. So I have ADHD as a woman, and that shows up differently. We tend to daydream a lot, procrastinate, and the Pomodoro technique is a life hack for productivity. So instead of getting distracted, this is what I do. It's basically you do a task for 25 minutes, and then you give yourself a 5-minute break. You do it again for another 25 minutes, you give a 5-minute break. The third time, 25 minutes, 5-minute break. The fourth time you do it, 25 minutes, and then you get a 15-minute break. And so it gives you like this period of time where you can just stop, because they say that you can't focus like on something for more than 25 minutes at a time. So it's like realistic. I'm getting something done, but then I'm also giving myself a reward and sticking to it. And then, then after all of that time, then I get a larger reward, which is the 15 minutes. And so that's really been helpful for me, because my thoughts can go from one way to the next, and then I, go into the rabbit holes. And I love my my neurodivergent brain, but it can be challenging to be productive and stay on track with one task.
Yeah.
And that's been my yeah. So the Pomodoro technique is what it's called.
I like that also because it's like, okay, you're setting these timers, or you're using, I know there are apps and everything that'll do it too, or you can use one on your computer or whatever, or use your calendar, schedule your calendar out that way, however you want to do it. So if you get off track, you are only going to be off track for a maximum of 20 minutes or 25 minutes. And then you're going to get that, like, go ahead and give yourself that 5-minute break still, even if you got off track, and then just refocus with that next one. So it's a built-in, like, are you doing what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is good, because I get sidetracked to hell. I mean, all over the place. Y'all know I get off topic, off subject, off what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, it's good. It's good to have that. During the day, I have a timer that goes off every 30 minutes, unrelated to making sure I focus, but just to make sure that I'm doing some other things that I need to be doing. And so it's helpful, because I'm like, whoa, has it been 30 minutes? Really? Has it really been 30 minutes? And what have I done in the last 30 minutes? Have I only checked my emails for 30 minutes? That's awful.
Well, there's another one that's also for productivity, and this is what I use too. If it's from Atomic Habits, it's the 2-minute rule. So if whatever task you have to do is 2 minutes or less, just do it immediately. So just do it immediately, only if it's 2 minutes or less, and then you've gotten that out of the way. So that's also another one that's really helpful.
I haven't read that book. I've wanted to read that book for a while, and it's come up so many times on this show, along with The Body Keeps the Score. Those two books come up quite a bit. The Body Keeps the Score probably even more than anything else. But yeah, Atomic Habits has come up quite a bit, and I feel like I would like to read it. Maybe I'll read it this year. Who knows?
A really good one. And I don't know if you have Spotify, but if you do, they're also available as an audiobook on there. So I read the physical copy, and then I listened to it, and sometimes it just hits differently when you do both.
I actually this year, and I was just talking to my friend about this tonight, but I actually this year have been like, okay, my only New Year's resolutions are generally things that are easily accomplishable, that are going to help me improve throughout the year. I don't set any super lofty goals, but I was like, if I'm going to set a super lofty goal, it's going to be to give audiobooks another try, because I am so anti-audiobook. Not like I don't think anyone should listen to audiobooks. I just can't seem to find one that works, that engages me the same way. I can't seem to keep track. I can't seem to keep up with it. I was like, I'm going to give audiobooks another fair shot, and I'm going to give it at least one audiobook a month a shot to work. So maybe Atomic Habits can be one of those.
Maybe. I was very much the same way, and I have a huge library because I love the physical part of the book. But when I would go on and I travel a lot, and I go on flights, I take the book with me, and I end up not being in a relaxed state and not wanting to read, or
Yeah.
not picking the book up. So I started using audiobooks on flights and in places when I go on hikes or whatever, I just put it in. I'm like, okay, it works, and it depends on the narrator too. Like some
Yeah.
narrators, I'm just like, oh, I need to turn this off right now. But some of them are really engaging. So I think, and I realized that I've gotten a lot more books in that way now,
Yeah.
even though I was very resistant to. So I hope you give it a chance, and maybe it helps you in certain ways, more than not.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
did the first one that I did. I was like, I'm going to pick a short story so that I can listen to it
mm,
in one go and I can just treat it kind of like a podcast because I do listen to podcasts. And I'm like, if I can pick a
yeah, me too.
short enough story that I can just listen to it in one go and have that be my first one for the year, then maybe that'll work. And I listened to The Answer Is No by Frederick Backman, and it was so good. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
that was a good foray into audiobooks. I think that was a good choice to go with a short story. So now maybe my next one could be like a nonfiction Atomic Habits kind of thing. Maybe we'll give that one a go. So I'll have to
Yeah.
pick it up. I do recommend that one, by the way. If anyone has not read that short story, it really is only a couple of hours read. You can read it in an afternoon, read it in an evening, Saturday morning if you're a morning person, which I am not. But The Answer Is No is a great, great short story. So
No.
throw that out there.
Okay.
It's really good. All right. Well, it is time for the magic moment of the stream. Oh no, it's not working. Okay, hold on. We got it. Okay, good.
Oh,
All right.
you have a magic
Perfect. I
wand?
have a magic wand. I thought it wasn't going to light up, but a couple of little hooks on it got that magic dust going. If
Oh my
you,
God, how fun.
if you could, we were talking about my vibe kind of being like unicorn before this, and it's very true. Like I very much,
Oh I love
yes,
unicorns. I'm so
amen.
connected. I had a pajama party, and my pajama was my onesie party. My onesie was a
Oh, I
unicorn.
love that
So
so much. That's
I love
awesome.
that.
All right, if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
It would be for people to not think that getting help is a sign of weakness. Being vulnerable is actually a sign of strength. It's allowing yourself to go deeper, to face your fears, and I just think there's such a stigma, or at least there used to be, not so much anymore. It's becoming different now. But to get help is never it never says that there's a deficit within you.
Yeah.
It's your ability to feel connected to someone and to gain some perspective from someone who may have more experience or who has the education to guide you through a life, or navigate you through something that's very difficult in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I would definitely say that would be my thing. Like, don't be
Absolutely.
afraid. Don't think that it's a weakness. It's definitely a strength.
100%. Well, we are at the end here. So folks who are here live, if you have any other questions for Zahra, feel free to put those into the chat. We'll make sure to ask them while we're here. I am going to post your links one more time. So if anyone's looking to connect, they can do so from the chat while we're live. And then Zahra, I'll just turn it over to you for a minute, and anything that we didn't talk about, any resources or things you want to mention, things you want to promote, the floor is yours.
Well, I first want to thank you for this experience. I've never been on Discord before. This is so fun. Your energy has been so amazing. And I think it takes for someone with humility and just respect to hold space for someone who is from a different world, who has a different perspective and experience to share about. That it says a lot about you. And I want to tell you that I'm so grateful that I was able to have this fun discussion with you, to have my nerves at ease. There are times where I was, nervous, but you definitely help things flow well. And I'm really, really appreciative of the work that you do. I think that I mean, having mental health Mondays is so important. It just shows that you've done your own, work on being vulnerable and sharing about your experiences. And now you're at a place where you want to normalize that for others to share their experiences as well. So thank you for contributing and advocating for mental health. I really appreciate that. And as far as like anything else that I want to share, I just want to say, let yourself and your experiences be your teacher, you know. Never look down upon what you went through, your history. You come from love, you're created with love. And so give yourself love and respect for whatever you're going through in life, and know that there's always a solution. This world and this universe provides us with abundance. And it's when we change our thoughts and our narratives. There's a whole book about this, actually. So if you want to if you think this is if it's woo woo for you, I also get into the science of like, there's a book called Magic Mind that talks about, from a neuroscience perspective, how manifesting is possible through your thoughts. And I believe in that heavily. We talk about journaling, we talk about visualization, and meditations. But it's real. Whatever you think you want in your life, it's possible for you. And if not, there's always something better. So if you don't get what you have in your mind from your level of conscious awareness, just know that there's something more abundant for you out there, and just believe in that no matter what you're going through. Know that there's always something, there's that light. And that darkness is so appreciated, because without the darkness, we wouldn't know how good that light would feel. We need that contrast and everything. And so my advice is to push through, give yourself grace, give yourself love, give yourself time off if you need to, but move forward and push through. Don't give up.
I love
Anything's
that.
possible.
I love that so much. That's awesome. And there's another book recommendation as well.
Magic Mind. That's a good one. Another person that's really good that I recommend watching and tuning into, her name is Zahra Swart on YouTube. So she's great. She is someone that teaches you how to balance and make sense of spiritual aspects of life and the scientific neuroscience. So she interconnects them and makes them both make sense. And so for those who are highly spiritual and don't need that proof, that's great. But she also like justifies it with like scientific evidence as to like how journaling helps you, relieve cortisol in your brain and those things of that nature. So like, I really, really, really appreciate her insights, and she's a really good person to listen to on YouTube if you have the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll add that one too. Well, again, thank you for being here. Bite Mark said, thank you so much for being here. Fascinating stuff. And I absolutely agree. This was a wonderful conversation about something that I really don't know very much about. So this was helpful and informative, and I love your energy. It's really been awesome to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in and taking that time to listen.
Most definitely. Most definitely. All right, y'all, give me just a minute to disconnect with Zahra, and I will be right back. Stick around. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I hope that conversation left you feeling like healing doesn't have to fit into one specific box. Whether it's traditional therapy, alternative therapies like Ibogaine, or just learning new ways to reconnect with yourself, there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to getting better. What matters is finding what works for you, even if it looks different than what everyone else is doing. One of the biggest things that stood out for me from this talk was the reminder that healing isn't about being perfect or fixing yourself. It's about showing up for yourself, choosing to do the work, and having the courage to try new things when old patterns aren't serving you anymore. That's true whether you're working through trauma, anxiety, depression, addiction, or just the regular stress of trying to be a human in a pretty overwhelming world. The reality is, we all have our stuff. We all carry things people don't always see. You don't have to apologize for that, and you don't have to go through it alone. If you found today's episode helpful, or if it made you think about things a little differently, it would mean the world to me if you take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a review or a comment wherever you're listening. Your support helps keep this show going, helps new people find it, and most of all, it reminds others that it's okay to talk about mental health and healing openly. You can also find all the past episodes and links to connect with me over on my website, tacosfallapart.com. And if you know someone who might get something out of today's conversation, feel free to send it their way. You never know what might come out of that. Thank you for being here, for being open, and for choosing to be a part of these real, gritty, important conversations. I will see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself because you deserve it.